talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Ah! Oh, it just stopped, I think. Sometimes it stops and starts. Hello, and welcome to the Lynn Cullen Show. We just had a fire drill, which, as you know, happens every once in a while. First things first, it's a Tuesday, and that means my sister Susan is supposed to be joining us, and supposed is the applicable word here because we're having difficulty with the phone system. Can people still call in to the show? No? Oh, I'm being told no. Well, welcome back. It's just like old times. SNAFU. Oh, shit. So, sorry guys, it's just me prattling on. Something I'm not thrilled about, but let's just do it. I'm going to save this because it's something I want to talk to my sister about. The news being that the medical marijuana dispensaries here are actually closed because apparently when they opened, there was such a run on their inventory that it's gone, and they got nothing left to refill it, so they had to close. This is really good planning. However, I had wanted Susan to be here to talk about it. We'll try to get this fixed, and maybe she can come on tomorrow. Because Susan and I, while I was in California, as was she, we went to a dispensary there. As you know, it is legal in California to sell marijuana for recreational use as well as medical use, and you do that at the same place where we went. And I just wanted to share with you my experience, but I was going to wait till Susan got here. It was amazing. I mean, it was really amazing, extremely professionally done, an extraordinary array of things. I did buy some medical stuff without a prescription. I did buy a jar of cream that is supposed to help arthritis pain if it's, put on the skin. And I bought that for a friend. And and then we bought some more for another friend who has MS. And man, there was just everything there you can imagine. There's even stuff for your dog. If your dog has anxiety, if your dog has, who knows what. Anyway, since I've been pretty much on the wagon, I didn't buy much of anything for me, but I did try a little edible, which was, as edibles often are, more than I thought it would be. And so it's a riot. Pennsylvania apparently started this without understand. How could they not know the demand? I mean, the demand is huge. And by the way, when you go in California, the first thing you do is you give them your driver's license. And they take down all information that goes on a record. So there's a record in California that Lynn Cullen was there, and I suppose a record of what I And the interesting thing is, I mean, the assumption would be that I was simply visiting and that I was going to be taking this stuff back to Pennsylvania where it is not legal. And that assumption was correct. I packed it and flew with it with no problem whatsoever. And on the California side, they don't give a damn. And the TSA, I was TSA breezed right through. And so I was able to come back with my gifts for folks. Anyway, I said I wasn't going to talk about it without Susan here, but I think I just did. Well, I hope Pennsylvania gets its act together, and I hope it's not one of the last states to realize the extraordinary bounty of tax revenue that clearly California is taking in with this stuff. Amazing. And by the way, the people who waited on us were just wonderful, extremely knowledgeable, professional. I was very, very impressed. So, just saying. Also, a programming note for this evening. WQED, actually all of PBS, it's not a local show. WQED will be showing It's You I Like, and that's at 8 o'clock, and that is about, of course, Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers. It is, I think Michael Keaton is maybe the main guy narrating it, I believe. He did work when he was a Pittsburgh kid. He did work with Fred Rogers and on the show. And this is to mark the 50th anniversary of the premiere of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I can't believe he's been gone for 15 years. I just can't believe it. But that's what it is. He died in 2003. I'm sorry. I still have residual effects of this horrible thing I had, respiratory infection. Anyway, so forgive me if I continue to do this tickly kind of a cough, which is driving me crazy. The New York Times, in a piece on this, airing tonight, said that Fred Rogers is quickly becoming, we thought he already was, a pop culture figure, that another documentary about him debuted at Sundance this year, and that's called Won't You Be My Neighbor. And then they also noted that Tom Hanks, as we have noted, is starring as Fred in a movie, biopic called You Are My Friend. And also the U.S. Postal Service is coming out this month with a Fred Rogers stamp. So it's interesting. And I think one of the things that, if this is becoming a cultural moment for appreciation of Fred Rogers, I don't doubt for a minute that it's because he exemplified everything that our president does not, right? Empathy, kindness, civility, and the contrast of that wonderful man who did so much good in the world and the man who now sits in the Oval Office it's as black and white as a contrast can be. And so maybe there's a yearning to see a man who had so much power, wield it in such a gentle and kind manner. Apparently on the show, there's going to be, I think they're going to redo the time that Fred went to see one of his biggest fans, who was not human. This biggest fan was the famous Coco the gorilla, who was that incredible female gorilla who was taught how to communicate with humans through sign language. And Coco is no longer with us, but she, while Coco was alive, she watched Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood faithfully. She loved it. She loved him. And so the people around Coco, who normally did not allow, civilians and people coming in from the outside to come into her environment, they contacted Fred and asked if he would come and meet Coco, that it would be a great thrill to her. And this was back in 1998. And Fred, of course, said yes. And off he went to the Gorilla Foundation. And he did a week-long series on his visit with Coco called You and I Together. And when Fred walked in and when Coco saw who was standing there, she got so excited, clearly recognized him immediately, and unzipped his sweater. and he gave her a harmonica as a gift, and she starts playing it. Amazing. And where did I read? Was it in the Post-Gazette on Sunday? This wonderful story written by a woman who, as a child, had suffered from just constant, horrifying seizures. And doctors told her parents that the only cure was literally to remove half her brain. Can you imagine? One whole hemisphere of her brain was to be removed. And this is a child who, because of her condition, didn't really have many friends, couldn't regularly attend school. And so she, too, like Coco, found solace in Fred and his program. And when she was heading off to Baltimore to have this surgery, her mother got in touch with the people at here in Pittsburgh and asked if there were, and told them what was happening, and asked if there was something that Mr. Rogers could maybe sign an autograph, write her a note or something. It would mean so much to her. And of course, instead, he called her and talked to her. And she told him she was afraid. And what better person to say, I'm afraid. And after her surgery, it's not said in the article she wrote, but it's Baltimore, and she said Dr. Carson, so it was Ben Carson. Dr. Ben Carson, our now head of housing and urban development, but who has changed in my head, when what a brain surgeon means. I say, hey, I'm not a brain surgeon, meaning I'm not a genius. It's really blown my mind how you can have the genius to do what Ben Carson did in an operating room as a doctor and be such a vacant, almost fool in the political realm, at least to me, it seems that way. But Ben Carson did the surgery, and then I guess initially things didn't go well. Her brain swelled. She went into a coma. Fred called every day. Talked to her mother, prayed with her mother, called every day. And then one day said to the mother, do you mind? I want to come see her. And she's in a coma, Mr. Rogers. You know, there's no way that she'll know. I don't care. I want to come and see her. And Fred got on an airplane here in Pittsburgh, flew to Baltimore, went straight to the hospital, came in with all kinds of he came in with a violin case or something, a clarinet case, I think, that he had stuffed full of puppets, you know, King Friday and all the stuff. And she was still in her coma, and he brought her all this stuff, and as she said, you know, you want the miraculous, I woke up, and there he was. But that didn't happen. She remained in a coma. He left all his stuff with her and flew back to Pittsburgh in the same day. He had just flown there to see her. And since she wrote this piece I read, and perhaps you did too, obviously she rallied. And obviously the operation was a success. And obviously taking an entire hemisphere out of somebody's head does not prevent them from going on to live a full life, as this woman did and has continued to do, and wrote this beautiful, beautiful piece. Fred. I was thinking today, somebody had suggested you need to have Sally Wiggin on to talk about Adam Lynch's passing. For those of you who don't know, Adam Lynch was a colleague of Sally's and mine at WTAE television, and was somebody who was on television in Pittsburgh from almost day one. He was an anchor on all three stations here, and he finished his TV career at WTAE, lucky us. We had the delight of having him in our lives. So I was thinking about Sally, and then I saw this today about Fred, and I thought, geez, I'll try to see if I know Joanne, his wife, is extraordinarily busy right now. It's, I think, a full-time job being the widow of Fred Rogers, constantly being asked to, you know, be part of all of these things that continue to go on, thank God, in his name and on his mission. And so I will try, okay, to, as I said yesterday, I'd really like to get more guests in, and so that's what I'm going to try to do. In fact, Bob has just emailed me saying, I'm sure your audience is curious to know what your relationship with your now late colleague Adam Lynch was like. Well, I have to tell you, I saw it in the obituary that they ran. Somebody stole my comment, but it's okay because the guy who stole it is constantly giving other people clever little things to say. In the obituary that was written in the Post-Gazette, somebody said what I always said about Adam. He's the oldest cub reporter in the world. And I say a cub reporter being, you know, a new reporter, eager, so excited about everything. Oh, I'd love to cover that fire. Oh, I'd love to do that. And that's how Adam was. He was much older than me. He was old enough to be my dad. And I would watch him like get excited. It didn't matter what the story was. He was always just, he was like, he reminded me of, like, you know, the Dalmatian at the firehouse. As soon as the siren starts, wow, bounding onto the fire truck. That was Adam. And I mean, to still have that level of passion about your job until the very end is amazing. Amazing. And let me just say this. He was just a wonderful guy. I know when people die, everybody says, oh, he was so wonderful. Oh, he lit up a room. Oh, this, that, and the other. No, Adam was just the nicest human being imaginable. He had the most incredible voice. But he had this rib cage. I mean, he was physically built in this strange way. So he had a rib cage that, like, sort of protruded. And I think is what gave him, he probably had some amazing diaphragm or something. He was built differently. And my other sense about Adam is, if I think about Adam, I think about a case of beer. I don't know why. But it seems to me Adam and beer were something too. I can't quite remember. Sally would. Just a delightful human being. And I was always thrilled after his retirement to see that he would often write letters to the editor or op-ed pieces. He remained the Dalmatian up until the very end. He was just a wonderful, wonderful guy. That's what I have to say. So, okay. Now, for those of you who don't live in Pittsburgh and think, "Jays, enough." One of the reasons I don't watch cable news anymore, rarely. I admit I tuned it in this morning out of curiosity. After having read newspapers, I thought, what would be what they are talking about? And when I tuned in, it was pretty much toward the top of the hour, they were talking about this idiot Sam Nunberg, who was, I guess, all over the air yesterday, saying, I'm not going to answer the subpoena by Mueller, let him arrest me, and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, I thought, first of all, this is such a distraction. This is one of those stories that's not worthy of much coverage. And I laughed out loud when I saw that what they were reporting after I'm sure, breathlessly last night, doing probably wall-to-wall coverage pretty much on him. I might be wrong, but I think I know of what I speak. It turns out all of that was, he's agreed to testify. He was just having a bad day, freaking out a little bit, I guess, like I understand other people might be doing in the White House. I can't bear that you can't call me. I'm told we can't work on a fix if I'm on the air. So the call was to just get me on and explain what was happening. And I also, I'm not going to say it now. What else I got for you here? I hope you guys don't think I'm going to avoid talking about larger issues. Because I said I want to retain my chill Zen-like demeanor, which I achieved in the last month. But of course I will when I feel like it's germane. But I am not going to be the obsessive. I'm not going to let Donald Trump take over my life and my show. I'm not going to. I mean, he's doing that to so many people, and all of it for ill, So I've sort of exiled him. Not that I don't read about what's happening, but Hey, there was a fascinating piece in the New York Times today. Maybe this has been a local story because I've been gone, and I wasn't looking at the PG for a month. But there is a case that garnered front page attention in today's New York Times. And it's about a custody battle here in Pittsburgh. The people involved, the husband and wife, are divorced. They have dual custody. It seems to me they have 3 sons, if I've read this correctly, and 2, I think, would be older than 18, so they're not really in a custody picture anymore. Shut up! I thought I turned you off. In a custody picture anymore. But there is their youngest child, who is 17, is a couple who lives in Upper St. Clair. And the argument that has brought them to court is an argument about whether their son, 17 years old, should continue to play football for Upper St. Clair High School. And the article is about the fact that increasingly family courts around the United States are finding themselves refereeing this domestic dispute between husbands and wives about whether or not a child should be allowed to play football. Now, I thought for sure, as I delved into the story, that it would be the father that wanted the kid to play and the mother who didn't. And guess what? It's the opposite. It is the father who is the driving force here. It has ruined his relationship with this son and his other sons, but he feels he's trying to save his son, who has already had 3 concussions. One because of baseball, where he was hit unprotected with a baseball bat. That was the first one when he was, he'd be a young teen. And the second and third were during football games. And after every concussion, 3, and he's 17 years old. And I guess a senior now. or maybe a junior. I don't know. The father thought, I've read enough to know that this is not good. And I don't want him continuing to play. And I guess this was in court and not decided, and the kid still was able to play the last season with USC, right? Well, that is it. Upper St. Clair, not University of Southern California. Upper St. Clair. And he did, and did not get a concussion. But the father's trying to keep him from playing his senior year. And you're sure the kid must be enraged because he wants to. The mother's point is that the kid is, here's her quote, her attorney's quote. She first feels that her son, who's now a junior in high school, is mature enough to understand the risks of the game and to make up his own mind. And guys, I gotta say, you think a 17-year-old who loves playing football is mature enough to imagine himself at the age of 40? Huh? You gotta be kidding me. It would be the very odd 17-year-old boy or girl who had the ability to imagine themselves older, really older, and paying the constant yeah, Oh, you can hear me? Somebody can hear me? Looks like it should be okay now. Can you hear me now? Did you get my pantomime? Pantomime? So you can hear me now? Margaret says she can hear me. And, I don't know. If one other person would simply tell me if you can hear me, I will continue on apace. Yes, audio's back. Damn. Excuse me, I would like to retain my Zen-like state. Deep breaths. That's what I found. Breath, really important. There. Okay. Somebody also suggesting I have Chris Potter on the air. I agree, that'd be good because he is decamping, getting the hell out of the Post-Gazette and heading over to public radio, over to WESA, where he's going to be the head of some. We'll have him on. Okay, and now somebody else says no sound. You know what? I can't. Guys, you're driving me crazy now. It is working. Yeah. Okay. Fine. There she said it. She said so. I wanted to talk about the teachers' strike in West Virginia, if I may. First of all, I was stunned to see, I tout sometimes that weekly magazine called, strangely, The Week. It is a compilation of articles, editorials, cartoons, everything from the last week. And for people who don't regularly watch news, and I've now become one, it's a great way to catch up, although for somebody who does a show like this, it's a little too late. At any rate, who did I just read? Who's that comedian, something Black? Why am I blanking on his first name? He's older, and why am I thinking? Anyway, he said that when he's on airplane flights, he takes, or he's going away, takes like 4 or 5 weeks that might have piled up, and he goes through them, and he gets a lot of fodder, he says, for his stand-up. And I'm thinking, yeah, I understand. I get fodder there for this. So it's full of little stuff. But I happened to check out the latest edition last night, and they had a story totally wrong about the West Virginia teacher strike. They had this story saying it was over. And I've never seen anything that wrong in that publication. I don't know what the hell they decided. They said it's over. The teachers going back, and what they did is they went on what the union leadership told them. They said, "Yeah, we got a 5% increase offer. The House has passed it. The governor is going to sign it. The only thing that was still not done is the Senate, but everybody seemed to think so. The Senate didn't go along. And then it turns out the teachers have told their leadership to go that they aren't going back till they get everything they want. They're being really militant. Now, this is a very unusual animal. This is not like the teacher strikes we have been used to seeing, because it is not just one district. It is every public school in the state. It is the entire state teachers walking. Now, by the way, that is unlawful in West Virginia. Strikes of any kind are unlawful in West Virginia. And the teachers' unions there do not have a lot of power. But I think they figured out we do have a lot of power. If all of us walk out the door, we're going to close every public school in this state. And as you know, West Virginia, when you think about organized labor, it is hard not to think West Virginia, because so many of the great movies that have been made about labor strife violence, strikes, horror have been set, understandably, in West Virginia. But what is happening with the teachers in West Virginia now is pretty amazing. It's sort of revolutionary. And I want to note something that Michelle Goldberg noted in the New York Times today. This is led by women. The overwhelming majority of the teachers are women. And as we are seeing increasingly, it is women who are becoming the most vocal and visual sign of resistance and reaction to the government, which is mostly men. The rebellion that they have started in West Virginia is looking to be contagious. Teachers in Oklahoma, who are even more abysmally paid, West Virginia teachers are paid 48th out of the 50 states in terms of their pay. Oklahoma is 49th. And the Oklahoma teachers are also considering, whether they do it or not, I don't know, a statewide strike. Oklahoma, as you know, is not considered a big labor union state. Also, there are rumblings out of Kentucky and some talk of the state of Kentucky's teachers walking out. This is an indication of uprising, as is what is happening in high schools right now with high school students after the shooting in Florida. And Michelle Goldberg is wondering if what we're seeing, the teachers' strike in West Virginia, the students, if we are seeing these marginalized groups, young people, children, women, being the force that is going to set off a grassroots kind of powerful movement of saying enough. Enough. Too soon to say, but as I said yesterday with that Kierkegaard quote, we can only sort of figure things out in retrospect. Looking backward, do things make sense? But we have to live now and moving forward. So it's hard to say where we're going moving forward. But what has happened in the very recent past, if it continues to snowball, suggests that we may be seeing the beginning signs of a true grassroots kind of rebellion and revolt from people who have hitherto been acted upon, not acted. And if that's true, we're in for quite a year. And Goldberg points out that the other thing is, it also could be ironically, the way that Donald Trump will make America great again by reawakening the citizens of this country. And if by his noxious presence, that is what we get, then it's unbelievable. And I'm starting to feel that the reaction to him and to his enablers and to the chaos and confusion and discombobulation of just about everything that they have wrought could well lead to this reawakening, rebellion, resurgence of we the people, who the last time I looked were on paper, on parchment paper, supposed to be the sovereigns of this nation. So, as I've said, I'm trying to look on the brighter side, trying to look for clues of good things. And they are there. They are there. Thank you, Ellen. It's Lewis Black that is the comedian I was failing to remember. And B also said, thank you, all you guys. Lewis Black, who does get a lot of his stuff from The Week. Okay. I just love sharing things with you that I didn't know. Oh, wait a minute. Before I do that, since I brought up the kids at Parkland, that was the name of the school, right? Or town? As I said, I was not immersing myself. I was certainly aware of the latest horror, and then was heartened to see the reaction of these children. And there, again, there was a piece that was written by a guy who said, you know, you got to remember, it is often the young people who wake you up. It's young people, idealistic, still not cynical, not having learned to be totally cynical. It's young people who, when in this horrific way, come face to face with what horror the world can bring, react in a absolutely proper way. Whereas we, the adults, so beaten down by it, so made cynical, hopeless, we do not. Right? What's the point? What's the point? If after they mowed down all those little children, nothing happened, then what's the point? It's impossible. So these kids are capable still of shock and of outrage And because they don't know how the system is rigged, our political system, how intractable the forces that have shaped the world that they now see as appalling are, it's because they're young and idealistic that revolutions are often made by young people. And the not young person who wrote this piece, I think, spoke for a lot of us when he said this: ever since Columbine, almost 20 years ago now, I have absorbed the news of years of more mass shootings than I can count with an ulcerating rage that gradually scabbed over into deadened cynicism. Does that sound like a fair description of what so many of us have felt? And he goes on, sounding like us. I'd come to the conclusion that America is a doomed nation, willing to spend $60 billion a year on our pets, but can't find any money or go to the inconvenience to keep second graders from getting slaughtered. And then he said, and I figured that when a species stops caring for its young, its extinction is not only imminent, but well-deserved. And so he talks about feeling this hopelessness, this bitterness, and this sense of we don't even deserve to live. He says power is like money. It's imaginary. It's entirely dependent upon faith. And cynicism is also a kind of faith. The faith that nothing can change. That those institutions are so corrupt, they're beyond redemption. They're immune to intimidation. Right? But then he says, these kids. It's been thrilling, he says. I'm reading his words because he says what I would say if I thoughtfully and with a muse on my shoulders sat down to write about this as well. It's been thrilling to watch these furious, clear-eyed teenagers shame and vilify soul-dead politicians and soul-dead lobbyists for their complicity in the murders of their friends. And then he notes how Wayne LaPierre was gibbering like General Jack D. Ripper in Dr. Strangelove about socialist takeovers and hardening our schools. And he says, you know, you could see the whites all around his irises. And you know what that look is? That look is fear. So he says, keep it on, keep doing it, kids. My message to you is come and get them. Take them down. Take them all down. All those cringing provincials who still think climate change is a hoax. that being transgender is some kind of a fad, and that socialism needs purges and re-education camps. Take them down, those people who think gender roles should be as disfiguring as foot binding. Take down the vampiric two-party system. Take down the savage theology of capitalism. Rip it all to the ground. Yeah, stuff's happening. And I guess I'm out of time. So thank you all so very much for sticking with us. We fully intend to get things up and running for tomorrow, and I will ask Susan if she can possibly join us tomorrow instead. So have a great day. Remember, if you want to tune in to PBS tonight at 8 o'clock to see the inimitable, wondrous Fred Rogers. Bye-bye.
Not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers. Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.